Hello, I'm Binzer Flynn, and welcome to the Flinncast.
I'm old. I'm an old man. I'm going to die soon. I got to see whatever mystical being is going to judge my soul. So I got to be a little bit nicer than normal.
Mike, you've got that nice double white streak going there.
Yeah, I just noticed this looking in the camera. I'm like, this is actually pretty cool. It's actually, because I was thinking of dyeing it. I'm dead serious. I was. But I think what it is I finally got a really super good beard trimmer. Like a really solid stainless, like a stainless steel rechargeable.
Keep doing this motion. Keep doing this motion.
It's my shake weight that goes with it. Yeah, it vibrates really nicely. So, but it's just really a really nice trimmer, and it does such a good job that I think it looks way better than it did in the past. And I think it's bringing out.
Be careful. You keep talking about trimmers. Yost is going to keep getting manscaping ads in his feed again.
What did I come into?
Welcome to the podcast, Merida.
So I'm trying something new tonight. So yeah, well, apparently everybody is, but I'm trying manscaping. Hello.
I was thinking of shaving my beard and doing that monkey tail.
No, don't.
No,
please
don't do that.
No, actually,
Do
that
it,
beard,
do it.
the beard, and the two white streaks down there. That's just perfect. Leave it the way it is. Trim it to a point.
Either John Favreau or Christian Nairn.
Trim it to a point where it doesn't feel scratchy as hell.
Yeah.
But apart from that, leave it the way it is.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate that. Really gives me a little ego.
What he's saying is, this is as good as it's gonna get, so just stop.
Hey, John.
Hey, I was looking at the wrong channel for a while.
Oh no, come join us.
We've been just talking about manscaping. It's fine.
Yeah, manscaping.
Yeah, you missed some horror. Thank God Apollo sat down. He was showing us.
It's a good thing Ben edits this because we go off topic a lot.
Yeah, this is the pre-show.
Oh, some of this is getting in. I'm telling you right now.
Did I tell you that my costume came in?
Oh, Lander?
Yes.
We
saw
you showed pictures.
Okay, I've got it. It's hanging in my bedroom. So I can't wait. I look so stupid in it.
I wish I hadn't thrown out most of my black noir armor now. I got the helmet still. I could remake the rest.
Oh, that would be hilarious. I want to do Pride.
Oh.
I just want to do Pride as Homelander.
That would be great.
That's all I care about, just to get the daddy thing. I just want to really play that up. This is literally a two-man suit to get into. And with my weight, you could fit two normal men in it. But for me, like getting the zippers and everything is really tough. Like the boots are like this high.
Yeah.
It's a zipper. It's zipper all the way to the heel. So getting that is really tough to get. So I'm going to have to go to my mom and get my mom to zip me in. It'll be like the time when remember when I got the Chewbacca suit? And my daughter Grace put me in it for the first time. And she zipped me up. I said, "Zip me up, Grace." And she goes, "Zip."
Uh-oh.
Right
I remember that now.
Stops at the top. And I'm like, I think I live in this now.
Yeah.
I had to have her tear it apart. And I had to go get the zipper replaced so that I could wear it.
Yeah, I'm doing doing like I did last week, where it's mostly me.
Yes, that's good.
My fee for editing this shit.
You're the face of our generation. Hey, there's a cat.
Guess who's gonna be now? He's gonna be
hold on. Switching focus.
He's gonna be baby.
There's my kitty.
Yeah.
Heavy duty cuddling.
Yeah. Little snuggle bug.
All right, let's get going.
Finally caught up on Discovery.
Right, let's get Discovery off our fucking plate. All right, so you guys watched the last couple episodes, so and Juice, are you caught up?
You know what? I'm pretty much caught up at this point. I've read so much stuff about it right now.
Oh, okay. All right, well, Chris and Merida, what are your impressions of how it wrapped up?
I'm happy we've finally gotten to Captain Burnham. It kind of tweaks the show back to what the rest of Star Trek has always been about. So I'm curious to see how that will proceed for season 4. I'm really curious to see how Saru comes back, whether he comes back as I was going to say admiral, which is an option, but an ambassador, which I think is much more likely, based on he's off to Kaminar right now, and he was getting kind of touchy feely with the Navarre leader. The ending was kind of whatever. I mean, Osira apparently, let's have the Emerald Chain join the Federation, woo! But me going to jail is the deal breaker. Was whatever. It was nice to see the rest of the crew, the bridge staff, kind of assist in the retaking of the ship. That was kind of cool. I'm hoping there's going to be some lasting drama between her and Stamets for season 4. After she basically threw him out an airlock, blew him out of a window when he's screaming that they have to go rescue his husband and adopted child, teenager, whatever you want to call it. That was pretty cool.
I'm wondering if Saru's gonna come back at all. Like, has Doug Jones signed on for the next season, or
he's already confirmed for season 4 because they've already started filming and he's there. So
that would have hurt my feelings because I really like Doug. He's
great.
It was really cool actually seeing Doug.
Yeah, we got to see his real face for once.
Yeah,
there were a lot of surprise viewers.
I'm sure he was quite happy not to have to put on the probably 4 to 5 hours of makeup that he's had to do every single episode for that show.
Yeah, easy day.
And wear the heels.
Yeah.
Kelpians have hoofs.
When he said that,
whatever.
He said my heel is touching the ground.
Yeah.
And he was all freaked out about it. Do you know what I thought was interesting? I just learned this. The monster that was living in that Kelpian's dream world, that wasn't all CGI. It was an actual person. And she was doing all the motions, and they put CGI on her. So she was doing the creepy little girl run. She was a contortionist. So she was like making her body go all crazy. And they pasted the CGI on her.
So we finally find out what the cause of the burn was. And I have to say, I feel like the season started so strong, but I feel like it ended with a whimper. I like this Kelpian. I like this Kelpian guy's story. It's interesting, but it should have been an episode. It shouldn't have been the focus of a whole season, much less something as gigantically game-changing as the burn. It seemed like it didn't work for me.
Yep. Something so small caused something so massive. Yeah, it was an underwhelming answer to the mystery.
Yeah.
Because it could have, I don't know. I know they've got this whole Michael has to save the galaxy thing, which is fine, and I'm accustomed to that now after 3 seasons. And she's the protagonist of the show, so kind of when people complain that it's all about her, I'm like, how is that any different than it was all about Picard, or it was all about Archer, or it was all about Janeway? But like, they could have just left the burn alone. They could just let it be a thing that happened, and now they have to get on with their lives instead of Burnham having to solve it in 1 season. In like, well, I mean, I guess she was there for a year before everybody else got there, but like, I feel like, how the hell did nobody else triangulate a position?
You think someone would have figured it out, right? Like, Starfleet still got scientists and smart people. Like,
I think it would have been a good multi-season arc.
Yeah, I would have loved it if the burn remained ambiguous. It would have maintained the mystique.
And when they actually finally explained it, it just feels so anticlimactic.
Yeah.
I mean, destroying all the dilithium in the Milky Way galaxy, that should have been something that should have been like so massively epic.
Catastrophic. Not just catastrophic. Not just a kid cried because he was scared.
Yeah, exactly.
That's pretty much
the cause of the burn. A child cried.
Well, think of this. If that kid's upset about the people on the ship that died, imagine when Saru breaks the news to him and go, oh, by the way, bit of bad news. You killed about 10 billion sentient beings. You okay with that, kid? Look at the stars. You know what I mean? Like, the kid's sensitive enough already, and now he's got to break the news that you're the worst mass murderer in the world, ever. Ever. ever that's ever
Galaxy.
existed. Yeah, that's right.
I feel like they might shelter him from that as long as possible.
I'm kind of surprised that the whole fleet inside, what do we call it, Starbase Central or whatever, wasn't able to disable the Discovery before it escaped. That kind of seems
That was kind of weird.
A little implausible. The dilithium planet, that was a Deus Ex Machina if I've ever seen one. But I guess they're gonna have to figure out some way to start rebuilding the Federation. And if now they have like a frankly unlimited supply of dilithium again, to start bringing people back, there you go.
You know what? It's kind of weird. You know when season 2 ended and we're like, okay, they're going to the 30th century. We're kind of hitting the reset button. And we get on with our lives. But I feel like even the end of this season was again hitting the reset button.
Yeah.
It's like dilithium's going to be a thing again because they found a whole fucking planet's worth, which means, and presumably, dilithium tech has been refined even more than when we saw it in like the TNG era. So they're probably even more efficient with dilithium than they were before the burn. So like I feel like supply, now they have this planet, is literally not going to be a problem anymore, and the galaxy is just kind of going to go back to the status quo. I mean, maybe we'll have some more like Federation v Emerald Chain versus Ferengi Alliance and the Klingons again, because I think from that map there's still 4 distinct quadrant powers type things, so maybe we'll see a bit more of that type of stuff.
I still predict it's going to take a long while for the Federation to get back up to where it was before the burn happened. So there's still going to be that story arc of people getting back in. Although I suspect in season 4 there's going to be a lot of, we're visiting this planet that used to be part of the Federation, we're going to convince you to come back in episodes.
I'm hoping that happens. I am hoping it takes on a bit more of an episodic approach as opposed to the overarching. Overarching thing's cool, but I like the episodic part. That's why I'm looking forward to Strange New Worlds, because they said they were going to do that.
Lower Decks, despite being a comedy show, was also pretty episodic.
Very.
As well, which is one of the reasons why I liked it so
Lower
much.
Decks.
Which I actually have discovered. It is in production as well as another season of Picard, the Section 31 show that they're wanting to do. Discovery, Prodigy, and Strange New World. So that's 6. Did I count right? 6 Star Trek series being concurrently.
A lot of Star Trek and Star Wars coming our way, and I like it.
I have a question though. I'm curious. How do you think? How now that Booker can do the spore drive?
Right.
How do you think that Stamos is? How do you think he's?
Did you just call him Stamos?
Stamos did. I totally did.
Well, I'm glad they have a backup now, because this Stamets being the only one that could do the spore drive thing was a little ridiculous. Now, having said that, I think he's going to start develop. I suspect he's probably going to start feelings of inadequacy or uselessness or something like that.
Yeah.
It would not have surprised me if if season 4 starts, we find that Stamets has actually left Discovery and is like working somewhere on his next new great invention or something along those lines, because he feels he's no longer useful.
Stamos leaves, right? Stamos leaves.
Stamos. See, now we're all doing it. Sorry.
I'm saying that from now on.
Stamos.
Okay? But no, what I think is going to happen is, I think you're correct. I think that's a very valid point, where I think he's going to go for a little bit and be pissy that he can do the thing now, right? And I think he could probably control it better, because he's got this sort of intuitive, empathic way that probably makes it even better. And I think, here's a prediction, I think what will happen is he'll go away for a little bit. Discovery's going to go off, do something, get in big shit. It's going to be, that's the end. There's no way we can survive. And all of a sudden, pew, in comes a new spore drive ship.
Oh, yeah, I bet you're right.
But can we talk about the most important member of the cast for 1 second? The cat.
Shoot.
Isn't it great we got that cat? I love him so
I thought
much.
they'd do more with the cat.
I used to own a Maine Coon cat, and it was monstrous. And I loved it so much.
Fluffy.
Oh, yes. And seeing that on camera is just like,
I was really expecting it to be revealed as some kind of like Flurkin type alien or something.
So was
Captain
I.
Marvel.
They still might.
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe it's maybe it's that. Maybe it's like. Maybe it's a shapeshifter. It stays in its cat form, and then strange things are gonna happen, and they discover, well, the cat was there. How could the cat do that? And then
Odo.
when everyone goes away,
Yeah.
and it shape shifts into this humanoid form and winks at you or something like that.
Or it's going to be like from what it is. It's an oak cropping from Lower Decks when she tried to make a dog.
How Tendy.
Yeah, I'm gonna make a dog. Turns into a cube rolling down the hallway.
There's something I would love to see in a time period appropriate Star Trek show is if they had a very quick cameo from people from Lower Decks, like just get someone that could, I don't know what the voice actor actually looks like, but to play Tendi in real life in that super fast way she does shit, that would be just for a second, it would be great.
It would be cute.
So I've seen the side by sides. They look like their character, like the voice actors, more or less, without Tendy being green. Obviously, they look like their characters. They could do it.
I would love that.
The one thing I didn't like about the second last episode when they're trying to retake the ship is Burnham like straps herself to the Jeffries tube and then does the fire purge thing, and they kind of show the like, oh god, she could fall, like the belt is slipping. I'm like, the belt, she'll be fine. She's the main character of the show. You don't need to do this. We know she's going to live.
Yeah.
Like, there's no point of even putting that in there because you're not fooling anybody with this. Oh my god, they could die, because it's the main fucking character.
Plot armor, just like the ship's got plot shields all the way.
Related, really didn't like the turbo lift thing. That was just weird. Because I'm like, where is all this? Is the Discovery now a TARDIS? Like, where is all this space?
Yes.
Yeah, that you're right. That was a little odd, unless they just did it for dramatic effect.
Well, I don't know. Apollo, you can probably attest to this, being a Navy man, that ships always look bigger. They're bigger on the inside than they look on the outside, right?
Like, you'll come up to a ship, like, I drove one of those little pig boats, and you look at it and you go, how many people live on this? And you're like, 27. And you're like,
yeah.
What? And
you're like, no way.
That it draws 22 feet under the water.
Yeah.
It's 22 feet deep.
And I guess if you like think about it, that the quarters, because every show we ever see, everybody's quarters always has a window. We never see quarters in the middle of the ship, right?
It's true.
If all the quarters and the meeting rooms and the science labs or whatever are all along the outside of the hull, if the middle's hollow because of cargo or because of extra dimensional turbo lift shafts, then whatever.
You never see holodecks with windows. Those things are inside.
Yeah.
And those things are fucking massive.
True. Like Galaxy Quest, it doesn't have to make sense.
That's right, yeah.
I agree.
I guess one final note for me, I did go ahead. I decided skipping part 2 of the Mirror Universe based on our conversations, and I agreed, yeah, I'm done with it. But I did watch the end of it, and I got chills when I heard The Guardian Forever.
Oh yeah.
That was fun. That was bloody awesome.
That was a cool throwback.
Okay, so the one thing I was gonna end on is the end scene where Burnham's in the middle in her new captain's getup, and everybody else is in the new uniforms that I really liked.
Yeah.
They've brought back the white-blue split between science and medical, which was cool.
Yeah.
But the one thing that bugged me is Detmer's in yellow and she should be in red, unless they've changed what the uniform colors mean, which is entirely possible.
And if you noticed, I'm trying to remember her name, the former first officer.
Miriam or
Tilly.
No.
Tilly. Yes, Tilly. Tilly was in blue. She was not in red.
Yeah, well, she was a science officer before she got her thing.
Right.
So.
But she was made first officer, so she should have stayed red unless she's jumped back to the science division and we don't know it.
So I will counter that argument by saying Spock was still a science officer while being first officer, and Burnham was also the science officer while being first officer.
Lawyered.
Listen,
point taken.
Or silver in this case.
Point
listen,
taken.
you stinking civilians.
Here we go.
The military does. The military does whatever the fuck it wants. I mean, I went from having a green uniform with a tiny little blue anchor that made me look like a Marine to wearing a black wool suit So I mean, and that was in one day. I went from black wool. So don't ever question how the military works. Now I see them walking around and they got baseball caps and flight jackets. And every time I see one, I'm like, "Ugh."
I actually like that, honestly. That looks pretty cool, but that's just me.
Yeah, that's you, Mr. Stibby.
The only other thing is
I like that.
Booker has like a black uniform, so I'm very curious what is that like special, not Starfleet uniform?
He's probably civil. He's gonna probably remain civvy.
Yeah.
He's like cool Neelix. He's the guy they picked up on the way.
Yeah, cool Neelix. You don't put those words together ever.
Only for Booker, because Booker's cool.
Yeah, Neelix with a
There was,
suave British accent.
There was a Daystrom Institute post that Phoenix shared with me yesterday that was basically how they could have made Voyager, like ramp up the drama on Voyager, was to make the crew complement a lot smaller. Like instead of Voyager having practically a full crew the entire time, give or take, Voyager was run with like a skeleton crew of like 30 crewmen, and that's it. And that makes Neelix much more. Neelix's character would be more important because Neelix as an everyman could be like, take a shift at the helm, take a shift as the cook, take and without being a comic relief character, essentially.
Merida, did you end up watching Batwoman or no?
I have not, because I'm waiting to hear what you think about it.
Okay, well, we'll spend a quick minute on that. Did anyone else watch it?
I haven't seen the first season, so I have no opinion on the second.
Okay, well, it's another CW superhero show, and I have to say right off the bat, I am saturated and so tired of the CW superhero soap operas. But this first season, or this first episode of season 2 of Batwoman introduces a completely new Batwoman, and I like her so far. I think she's the strongest part of the show right now. The thing is, it's still kind of the same feel. The big problem with it, I'm finding anyway, is it carries over a lot of baggage from the first season, and mostly because the villain's the same. It's still, Alice is still around. They like, and it doesn't, I don't get the feeling like she's going anywhere for a while. I like all the other characters are fine. I know, right? But she's still there. It doesn't seem like she's leaving. And I was saying to Rain earlier, how hard would it be to like bring in a cool, different villain? I mean, like they could bring in the fucking Penguin if they wanted and really, ratchet things up. But they're sticking with Alice, and I'm like, this is, if anything drives me away from season 2, it's going to be this villain, because I've just had enough of it.
Well, there's other cool villains that they had in Batwoman too, right? Like later on, there's kind of an ex of hers, and there's a whole thing that happens with it, and involving villains and hallucinogenic substances and a whole bunch of stuff, which would have been actually cool. It's just kind of disappointing that they're keeping Alice, but they're not keeping Kate Kane. Like that's.
Well, we'll see. Like, I don't know what they're gonna do. They brought, well, I won't spoil anything, but they brought over another thing from the previous season, and I thought it was gonna stick around too, and it didn't. They dealt with it rather quickly, so I don't know. Like I didn't think that would happen, and it was just a pleasant surprise. So maybe they're gonna surprise me again. I don't know. We'll see. But I do like the new Batwoman. She's pretty cool, and the suit's still working for me. The fights are still working for me, so I'm gonna give it a fair shake. We'll see.
Yeah, I'm just so behind. I haven't watched the end of the last part because I started to get annoyed. I get annoyed. Like, but it's the CW thing. Honestly, it really is. But and also, I love Ruby Rose so much, and she is just like in my head what she should look like. But either they gave her shit lines, or she can't deliver them very well.
The cool thing about when they did do those big CW crossovers, once Batwoman came into it, she was the best part of it, because she didn't want to work in this big stupid group dynamic, and she had no patience for anything. She was just real, let's just punch the shit out of it and do the job. Like, that was so refreshing in these CW shows where, you got Weight of the World, Green Arrow, and angsty Flash. Flash should not be angsty, by the way. And it's just, it tires you out, and Batwoman was like, come on, let's just go do it. Like, I love that about Ruby Rose's Batwoman.
Your comment that I picked up on earlier today, Ben, about you would watch a whole show about Captain Cold.
Oh, fuck.
Just pulling heists.
Yeah.
Would be awesome, where he could make it like almost a comedy, where he's bringing in like these edge of the universe villains.
I would love it.
With him, like almost like a Suicide Squad.
Oh, see, that would be great.
These bizarre, weird villains that you can just see him going like this all the time. Oh, trying to deal with these idiots.
Flash has got an unending rogues gallery of weirdos. Like it would. I mean, I could listen to Wentworth Miller talk all day, right?
Yeah.
I got the cold gun right there. I mean, I'm a fan.
I would go back to watching that. When I read that, I went, yes, that I would watch.
When he left Legends of Tomorrow, that's where my interest went right out of the show. I was like, he just got rid of your best part of the show. Like Heatwave, he doesn't work by himself. Heatwave works when he's got Leonard with him. Otherwise, it just doesn't work.
I really enjoyed the show where the two of them were on together.
In the early episodes when Captain Cold, Heatwave, and White Canary, when they would go out on a mission, they were kind of like the ones like, let's go to the bar, like the rogues of the group. Well, like the Adams, like, oh, let's go do Boy Scout things, and they're like, no.
Yeah, that's right.
That was the best part of it. All right. Anyway, we'll see what happens with Batwoman. Let's talk about WandaVision. First 2 episodes.
Love it.
It was.
Oh.
It was what I was expecting. With all the previews they were throwing at us. So I mean, if it were any other universe or any other company or anything else trying to push this on me, I would have just said and moved on. But my name is Yost Jufing, and I am an MCU addict. Therefore, I am going to watch.
Hello,
I'm going to watch. Hi. I'm going to watch this, and I'm going to give it a chance. And it had enough. It had enough stuff. Little.
So many littles.
They had enough littles. Thank you. We'll just call it that. And had enough littles in it to keep me peaked. So I will continue watching this and see what happens.
It is so sinister. Like the whole thing, you're just, like, there was somebody who was like, "Oh my god, I watched like part of the first episode, and it was too like cheery and comedic." And I'm like, "Are we watching the same thing?"
Yeah, wait a bit.
So sinister, sitting on the edge of your seat, going, "What is happening right now?"
Going on?
I was actually expecting something like that to happen, so I was just waiting for something to pop up, and sure enough, there it is. Like the end of that dinner, the end of the dinner party, where she just keeps repeating, "Do something," or "Help him, help him, help him, help him, help him, help him," and then Vision goes and rather than the cutesy 1950s comedic disappearing thing he does, it's the actual modern hand goes in his body and pulls out the offending piece of food that was choking him. Like he actually became a real thing. Yeah, it was like, as I said, little things like that just piques your interest and say, yep, there's definitely something else going on here, and they're gonna feed us these things throughout the entire season to keep us interested until they get to the end and we figure out what the hell is happening.
I think you're gonna find out. So here's my theory.
So, I'm conspiracy girl right now with this show.
So I think that because, it's obvious. We all know that there's like something going on that's got them held here or whatever, but is because reality's starting to leak in. So we've seen a 50s sitcom because we saw the kind of I Love Lucy, Dick Van Dyke sort of thing, and then we saw Bewitched, which was this one. So that's the 60s because that's like 65 or so. So then we have the 70s and the 80s. I don't know if they'll bother with the 90s.
They're doing 2 for the 90s. They're doing early 90s and late 90s.
Okay, so then that means we'll get, and there's 8 episodes, right?
9.
And the O's after that.
Okay. I don't know, because the thing is, it's like less fun if you can't. They have to be able to differentiate style-wise. So I don't know that they're gonna go. I think we're gonna see more and more reality leak through, and we're gonna have a decade each week, except apparently 2 for the 90s. And then we're gonna have the last couple of episodes are gonna be everything coming to fruition and it being current time, and they're like fighting. So I think it's gradually going to become more and more real as it becomes more closer to our present day.
I think that in the first episode with the scene Juice was talking about, it turned from being Dick Van Dyke, because there was even him not tripping over the coach by phasing through the coach. Because you got to remember, I used to have bookshelves full of books about sitcoms, so I know my sitcoms. And what happens at the dinner table is that it goes from being Dick Van Dyke to David Lynch. It becomes a David Lynch movie at that moment when he starts to choke. And she looks at Wanda and she's like, stop it, right? And I think what it is these two people are nurses or doctors. They're in the real world, and Wanda is actually choking him. She's the one that's choking this guy.
Oh,
great theory.
And that Vision, she calls on the Vision in her head, because Vision's dead. So she calls upon the Vision in her head. Well, I'm just saying he's dead from the movies. We know that, right?
Yeah.
So
okay, you're really starting to get M. Night Shyamalan here.
No, but this is the thing: is that the Vision is her stability.
Yeah.
Right. That's what's keeping her sane. So I think she's been pulled in. Remember, I think at the end of each episode where you see the person watching them, I don't think that's the bad person. That's Sword.
Yeah, Sword.
Like the organization Sword.
Yeah,
right?
It's Sword, and Sword Sword is a Marvel thing.
Yeah. So I
had to look it up.
I think those people are just monitoring her.
Yeah.
And trying to help her. And the use of the songs is how they're communicating. It's like when I said that Charlie Brown is actually in a coma, and when he hears those wah 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 voices, those are the nurses and doctors working around him, right? And Charlie Brown's reality only exists around him. That's why the edges of the screen are always faded. It's the same with Wanda.
I was thinking that like at some point, it's not. I don't think it's being done to her. However, I do think that she's in sort of like a matrix for healing or something, because she's not the only one in there. Geraldine, 100%, she is also in there as well.
I think she's the bad guy.
She was the one who faltered when they asked her what she was doing there.
Yes.
And she faltered. She's like, and it's the same type of thing when Wanda, is asked any questions. She kind of falters because they have no idea that part of the program wasn't written for them. So Vinzer actually said that it was like the barf matrix that Tony had. So it could basically like started from there, and they just created this entire like reality, like Caprica. If it's like Caprica, the whole matrix that they were in that, where they would kind of plug in, and it's this whole other world. It's kind of the same idea, but she's not the only one in there. The reason why I think this is kind of maybe being done to her, maybe there is Hydra within Sword that's doing this to her. We're not sure. But it's because Falcon was trying to reach her, like I think it's him. Somebody was trying to reach her from the outside on that radio saying, "Who's doing this to you?" So they're trying to figure out what's wrong with her, whether she's doing it to herself or somebody's doing it to her, but she is locked away somewhere. And the reoccurring characters are 100% her nurse and her staff. The neighbor is her handler.
Totally agree.
She's actually, she's in there probably plugged into this matrix, and she's like keeping an eye on her because she's paying attention to her more than anybody is.
She is.
I don't necessarily think that anyone is doing this to her. I think she might be in a prison of her own making, and maybe Tony Stark's barf program, whatever it has turned into, is a way of them getting into her mind to watch her and try to help her. Like, I think she's just lying in a bed torturing herself and gone a little bit crazy over the death of Vision. And I think by the time we get to the end of this series, that this is going to be her path to healing. And then when she comes out of it, because then she's going to be in a Doctor Strange movie and shit like that. So I think this is her path to healing. It's totally fucked. I love it.
What I thought was interesting with Geraldine is the African American lady, right?
Yes.
Right. I thought it was interesting that Geraldine didn't know her name until Wanda touched her. And she says, "So what's your name?" And she's just sitting there going,
Good catch.
And then Wanda touches her shoulder and she goes, "Geraldine."
Yeah.
So that's where I think that Wanda is not just a prisoner, but an active. It's almost like the Truman Show, Where, but she's got the ability to control parts of the Truman Show, and parts of it keep like the red helicopter, the sword helicopter. And what was interesting, if I could be completely pedantic, is you'll notice, not that we would ever do that on this show, the helicopter was a 1960s military helicopter. So it fit in perfectly with the era she was in.
Do you think the coloring, because it was red and yellow, had any significance?
Yeah, I think it's the whole Vision thing.
Probably.
Yeah.
I think it's Stark. Yeah.
That's my was a Stark. It's Stark
Yeah.
tech, which makes me think it might be this barf system, right?
So two comments. One, Dick Van Dyke apparently was consulted for this show.
Oh.
So there you go.
I posted that.
And two, I from clues from episode 2, building on stuff that Merida said and what you said, Vinzer, I think she's in there, and she's not a prisoner. She wants to be in there and wants to stay there. I mean, she blew up the radio, and then she rewinded time when the beekeeper popped up from the sewer the sewer hole because she didn't want real life intruding on her fantasy.
God, with the beak.
Oh, that's a good one, Juice. That's good.
So as I said, it would make sense that this is her healing, and this is now real life, the outside world's attempt to try and bring her back to reality, but she doesn't want to go back to reality yet.
But who do you think the villain would be?
Truman Show.
Yeah, who do you think the big bad would be at the end of the season, though? If it's like maybe
I don't think there is one. I think it's just her.
So
maybe there isn't a big bad. Maybe it's her own brain.
At one point in the show, they did have one of those commercials, and it had the name Strucker. So it's still possible she could still be in this healing coma, but be in the hands of someone else.
Yeah, because it was the Stark toaster. Was the first commercial, and the woman getting very nervous when the bread wasn't popping up. The alarm kept going, beep, beep, and she started looking really crazy. And the second one, the Hydra watch.
Those commercials, it was the same man and woman that were in them.
Yes.
And I don't know if that was just to play up like the 1950s, that it was always the same people advertising, or if those actually have a reason that it's those two.
Oh,
in
yeah.
the commercial.
I assume we are seeing nothing is happenstance.
Exactly.
In a show like this, everything is like it is for a reason. Like I don't think there's any.
I've been looking for clues like crazy, I just analyzing everything as much.
You almost had to expect there's going to be clues in something like this when they start doing a show about a 1950, like a banal 1950 sitcom, just inserting the Vision and the Scarlet Witch in there.
Now, for the old farts in the group that are old enough to have either watched these shows or seen the reruns, both 50s and 60s, like they nailed the fucking format, like how they were presented, and they were actually lighthearted. They were lightheartedly funny. Like they got it so right.
It was so much like watching like Nick at Night again, or some of those shows. Like it was exactly like the right sets, the right, just in 4K is the only thing I found different. Like it was just like a high def version of watching those all again. Even
the premises of the show still works for a 60s thing, like Vision and Scarlet Witch having superpowers but hiding them in their nice little, residential setting. That's Bewitched or I Dream of Jeannie, right? This crazy secret. It works.
Yeah. Well, I think that's perfect because they are dead on. And I posted something earlier about how there were people complaining that the episodes were really short, but that's how short those episodes were.
Yeah.
But they
were. They actually were expanded because the actual shows were like what, 24 minutes long normally to
24 minutes
to include commercials. These things are like 28 minutes long, so they expanded a little bit longer.
Well, remember though, back in the old days, there weren't as many commercials because there was more of a sponsor. At the beginning, they'd say, "I Love Lucy, brought to you by Pepsodent," and there'd be like a 2-minute Pepsodent commercial at the beginning, right? But I think here's what would be cool. I think is that if they get to the 2000s or the 1990s, that suddenly they go from being in a house to being in an apartment.
Oh yeah, I bet you they will.
Well, it'll be Because the 90s episode will be Friends.
Yeah.
Probably. Well, actually, Merida has an interesting theory about how they're doing just husband and wife couple shows.
Could be Cosby Show.
I'm trying to figure out what the 70s are going to be and what the 80s are going to be.
Three's Company?
I was wondering about Three's Company, and I thought that would be funny.
Who would be the third person?
But
Geraldine
that's the thing.
or the neighbor?
Or her brother.
They turned out the landlord is Thanos.
But he's in Mr. Furley's suit.
Yeah. That would be. But I'm wondering if her brother is going to be back as well.
Maybe. I was wondering about that. Yeah.
Because I mean, if she's bringing people back from the dead in her head,
whatever sitcom it's going to be, it's going to involve children. Because
eventually,
the children going.
That's
right?
true.
So you think of the 70s, a show that had kids and parents.
Didn't they all?
And you got Moving On Up. You've got shows like that with
Different Strokes.
Different Strokes.
Yeah.
So and then, but then again, you know what could happen is suddenly we're going to get to the 90s and there are no kids anymore.
Fresh Prince.
Gone.
Fresh Prince. Yes.
Here's a story about how my life got all turned upside down. Ended up in Wanda's head, and I'm all screwed up around.
Oh my God.
We were thinking like 70s is that you get like maybe there's the Brady Bunch, but then that's too many kids. There's like what All in the Family, but then that's old.
Yeah, that doesn't work.
That's too racist.
There's like, well, the 70s were a lot of that anyway.
Well, that's true. Yeah. 80s would be like what?
Different Strokes? Is that a
Cosby Show? Wasn't it a Cosby Show?
They won't go near the Cosby Show, man. No way.
No, but that format.
Family Matters?
That was 90s. I'm thinking, what was the one Michael J. Fox was in?
Family Ties.
Family Ties. That or Growing Pains. Although maybe they won't go near the Kirk Cameron shit either. Because
remember, they don't. All they need is the look.
Premise,
it doesn't have to be a specific show.
Yeah.
Like you have him wearing cardigans and those kids.
You can pull in like Full House as well too. So
yeah, Full House.
I want them to do Mary Tyler Moore for the 70s, but
that would make sense.
Wanda throwing her hat in the air.
Well, yeah, because we had Dick Van Dyke, which then of course Mary was.
But it can't be Mary because Mary wasn't married.
The way to looking at it, though, I think it's going to be something more along the lines of Partridge Family or Brady Bunch.
Yeah.
I want to see Paul Bettany come through the door in the 90s apartment like Kramer.
Yeah.
That would be great. I feel like he could do that. Well, did anyone else feel like he was really channeling some Knight's Tale Chaucer when he was hamming it up and being silly?
Yes.
He was actually really funny, I have to say.
Yeah. The scene with him at work, like he's like, typing away, and they say about being a computer. Then they're like, "Oh," he's like, "What do we do here?" Like, "Oh, we do things."
That in the 50s and 60s, often you didn't know what the dad did for a living.
That's true.
The dad just went to the office. Like the Brady Bunch, you knew he was an architect. Ricky Ricardo, you knew that he was a band leader. But in the others, I work in an office. And the humor wasn't about what the job was. Yeah, it was a very bland sort of nothing, right? So I like your point about she hasn't written that yet, but I like the part where he's sitting at the episode 2, where he's with the neighborhood watch.
That was
sharing
great.
Secrets, and he goes, "He's a communist," and they all crack up and go, "You're okay."
So good.
I wonder too if maybe. Like if Vision if he's part of her psyche, then really, so that if like part of her is trying to bury everything, and then Vision is the part of her psyche that's trying to figure out what's happening and come out. So like maybe there's like because I mean it makes sense if she was in love with Vision and that he's kind of the protective but trying to save her part.
Also, Merida, Emma Caulfield.
Yeah.
Right?
Best.
Like, I'm so excited.
Best.
Sorry, I just had to have that.
We were watching it, and Joni's like, or Merida's like, she reminds me of what's her face from Buffy. What's her face from Buffy?
I didn't say what's her face. Thank you very much.
Sorry, well, I don't remember who it is.
Because it is what's her face from Buffy.
Yeah, I literally almost got off of the couch, and I was like, no, I recognize that voice.
she did look familiar. I just didn't question it because there's a lot of actors on there that are from other things, and
Anya.
to have the chance to work in an MCU show, I doubt anyone would turn that anyway. So I kind of figured there's going to be a lot of people I've seen before. I haven't clued in quite as to who's from where, and now I just clued in from where the bossy neighbor's from. So.
Here's I just had an epiphany. It's based on what Vinzer said. If she's in Tony's barf, right? Okay. It's all right? I don't know. Is it possible that there's a remnant of Jarvis still in that matrix?
Interesting point.
He is actually still in there with her. So she is actually living this artificial life with Jarvis, who really is still alive. So is this the way we reintroduce Vision? We bring him back from the dead.
A great theory.
That she's in this system and she's working with Vision, and Vision is going to become self-actuated through this. So there's this tiny little bit, because remember in Iron Man 2, where Ultron beats the shit out of Jarvis, but there's that tiny little bit of him left, and he comes back. And so is it possible?
There's made after though.
No,
Jarvis wasn't destroyed. He just made an exit into the net.
So hang on. We're off on the timeline. Mike said Iron Man 2. What he means is Age of Ultron.
Yes, but Barf was still made after that.
So Courtney is it's before, because Barf is Iron Man 3, which is just after Avengers 1. So Jarvis is still Jarvis.
Barf is Civil War.
Barf is Civil War.
Regardless of
Barf
this,
is Civil War. Yes.
So I'm just saying, regardless of the timeline, is it possible that somewhere in Stark's system that he doesn't know about, there's a backup? That somewhere he's squirreled away as a little nugget of code. Wanda in there as well.
Well, you saw when he had to replace his suit's OS, he was going through all these chips and they had names on them, and he eventually settled on Friday, and there was Jocasta, which was a tip of the hat to the comics. Who's to say there's not a backup of Jarvis, an early version of Jarvis, but the wound was too fresh. He couldn't plug that in yet, right? So I had to start fresh. Maybe I'd buy that.
So Wanda's rebuilding Vision. She's rebuilding him. She's bringing him back from the past and building him through the decades. And at the end, he's suddenly back.
It definitely has enough, I wouldn't say sinister, but there's definitely enough littles in there to pique your interest, and there's just going to be more as we catch up from the 70s, 80s to the 90s to whatever we finally end up in and go nuts.
As we go on, my place is going to turn into that conspiracy gif, because I'm just going to have like the threads everywhere.
That's what's going to be in the background here next time.
Yeah, I have to make a request though.
What?
Juice. Littles is a sexual term.
I didn't want to say anything.
It's a certain sexual term in BDSM. So I'm really having a problem with you talking about littles all the time. So
maybe we could call them tidbits or nuggets or Easter eggs.
Easter egg. That's the word I was trying to do.
I'm feeling very uncomfortable.
Paulo, enlighten me on this.
The whole thing about it's littles and daddies, and it's people about who play being very young, and it's a thing.
I had absolutely no idea. So there you go.
Said it, I winced. I was like, and that wasn't a sexual wince. That was like, I'm really uncomfortable. You discussing your feelings with me.
This is in the podcast, right?
Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Good night.
Make sure you search littles on Google.
You know what?
Now you said it. Now everyone's phones heard it.
Now I'm not going to even.
I gotta look it up.
Don't do it.
You know what's going to happen to Juice? He's going to say, "Hey, that steak wasn't big. It was an Easter egg." He won't want to say the word "little" from now on.
John, did you have a point earlier before we got on a?
Really sorry, that happens.
And then during it was the. When at the end of episode 1, where there was like somebody almost taking notes with like a sword jumpsuit on, and like the fake credits are rolling, one of the names is a classmate of Peter Parker, the Abe Brown, who was in Spider-Man: Homecoming. He's with Peter Parker.
Oh,
and
good
he's
catch.
a producer on the 50s sitcom, supposedly. So
that's not an accident. That's
Yeah.
cool. Very good catch.
So, one thing I wanted to bring up at the end of last week's podcast, but I forgot. But Kat Dennings is in this as well. Natalie Portman's sidekick from the
Right.
Thor movies is in this somehow. So I'm very curious how that's going to tie in.
One watching.
Also, I
Yeah,
want a
yeah.
Strucker watch. I hope they do. I hope they make.
course
I
you
hope they
do.
make those.
I just wear my Hydra pin on my black lab coat at work. Only 2 people in 3 years have gotten it.
Did they whisper
just like-
"Hail Hydra" in your ear when they saw
They
it?
literally were like, "Is that a Hydra pin?" And I was like, "Well, what else am I gonna wear with a black lab coat?" And they're like, "I mean, yeah, I guess."
When that was going around in the comics a few years ago, Tony was getting close to a new flame, and he leans in close and he goes, "Hail Hydra," and she goes like, "What?" And he goes, "Sorry, occupational hazard."
This has a real opportunity if you're willing to go down the freaky road. Because I
Totally.
already saw people online complaining that I don't want to watch a 50s sitcom. This is stupid.
Prius, what do we say about the haters? Fuck the haters.
Fuck the haters.
Shut the fuck up and let people enjoy it.
Wisdom. So, the mention about Kat Dennings brings me to a few tidbits of news we can finish up with tonight, which is
Not littles.
I said little, not littles.
I Googled it and now I got the FBI watching me.
Yeah, way to go. I told you. Thor Love and Thunder, Thor 4. Matt Damon has been cast to be in it. And Karen Gillan has been confirmed in it to be Nebula. So a couple cool casting news for Thor.
Interesting.
Maybe they can get Ben Affleck with his life-size cutout of his girlfriend.
Well, they got to get it out of the dumpster, right?
So weird.
So the other casting thing, we mentioned it a couple days ago, Merida. This is double good for you because it's Gwendolyn Christie cast into the Netflix Sandman show. Little Phasma. I know you like Phasma.
I like Gwendolyn Christie. She is delightful.
She's
I
good in
met her
everything.
and shook her hands. She's very tall.
Did you?
I did. I
Yeah.
met her in Denver.
Oh,
And
Gwendolyn? Oh yes,
Yeah.
I met her in Montreal. She's got some
Delightful.
very delightful,
Oh,
and yeah,
her.
I went up
Okay.
to
Yeah.
My head went up about. This is gonna sound bad. My head went up to about her breasts. So yeah.
So you're the
Very
little, is
cool.
what we're hearing.
Yes, oh god.
She's got that powerful giant vampire woman from Resident Evil power.
We'll end tonight with the really big news, which is all 5 seasons of The Muppet Show are going to be on Disney.
Yeah.
It's about time.
Shared their they did a salute to Canada in 2012, and I shared it on my Facebook page,
Yeah.
and it's hilarious. Here's a question though, before you end it. This is a very,
Yeah.
very quick one. Is anyone else watching The Stand, or am I the only one?
I'm going to, but I haven't.
Going to.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it.
Yeah.
Juice,
But want to. I do want to. Honest
you know
to
what?
God.
It's you got to give it a like. It's different because I would have been pissed if they just redone the series, like they just did a shot for shot remake, because that's already been done. This is very like time is very. They drift forward, they drift back. They drift forward, they drift back. And I really am enjoying it because we all know the story. Like they're not going to surprise
Have you
us
read
with the
the
story.
book?
Oh God, I read the short one and the big one.
Okay, so then how does it compare to the book? Is
They've
what I
had to
wanna
cut a
know.
lot of stuff out, and it's understandable. But they've kept the good stuff.
But then again,
Okay.
they also had when they did the limited series, they cut a lot out of the of that as well. They merged characters and
Yeah.
cut whole sections out, which was understandable considering what some of those sections were. But yeah, I that book is like 12. I think it's close to 1,200 pages long. So
I'm very happy with it.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's the only Stephen King book I've ever really read, to tell you the truth. I just don't like other Stephen King books. What was funny was Stephen King went on Twitter and said, "What? Canada can't watch The Stand? What the hell is going on? Because you can't legally watch The Stand in Canada."
You know what I'm watching right now, and I'm bitterly following this shit through to the end is the Walking Dead spin-offs, okay? Like, it's Walking Dead. It was hugely popular. Fear the Walking Dead, pretty good starting out. Then, and I'm watching the season of World Beyond, where it's kids 10 years later kind of thing. And the thing about the Walking Dead, I realized this today, is that it's only ever good at the start. It's only ever really good right after society comes apart. And then you get on into the later seasons and it's just humans being horrible to each other and power struggles and assholes like Negan. And I don't want to watch it anymore. So I'm thinking what the next Walking Dead spinoff they need to do is just a season of one-shot chapters from different perspectives on the night of the fall. And that would be so fucking interesting. I would love it, because they do a flashback in World Beyond. One of them's a Marine, and it flashes back to her on the night of the fall. And I'm like, this is where it's good. This is when things first start going crazy, and they're like, what the fuck are these things? That's when zombie movies and shows are good. Then 6 seasons in, you're like, I don't give a fuck who's doing what. Like, I don't care about any of these people anymore.
That's when I stopped watching The Walking Dead, because it's amazing that I'm happy, delighted, and enjoy seeing zombies rip people apart. But when humans start to be like assholes to each other, then it's the same even with the graphic novel. I stopped reading it when it got kind of rapey.
Yeah.
Fear the Walking Dead was really good in the first season, because you're on the run and it's called crazy. As soon as they start trying to settle down, I'm like, I don't want to watch this shit anymore. But I stubbornly stick with it.
I watched season 1, and then when they explained the science of it, and I was just like, as a science nerd, I was like, man, this is so cool, the CDC, blah, blah, blah. And then I was just like, wait, now it's just basically political struggles? Never mind about.
And believe me, I'd love a good political thriller, but not in a post-apocalypse.
Remember when Rick makes it to Atlanta, and he crawls in the tank, and the zombie comes alive in the tank? That's Sam Witwer.
Is it really?
That's Being Human, Star Wars.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, that's Sam Witwer.
Crashdown.
And what was supposed to happen was the next episode was supposed to be all about him. And him being in Atlanta as a Marine fighting this last fight.
That would be great.
But here's what happened was they had no idea that Walking Dead was going to be a hit.
Right.
So what happened was they made the first episode and they chickened out.
Oh.
Because I used to talk to Sam Witwer online, because when I was doing the Being Human Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
And he tells a story about how that because I recognized him right away. I said, oh my God, that's Sam Witwer. Mm-hmm. And it's like, it was supposed to go on, and it was supposed to be a whole episode about him during the fall. And how did he end up inside the tank?
I think what I'm saying is I would really like a World War Z style book show. Yep. Not that movie, but you know what I mean. Just chapters showing the different perspective of the fall.
And if you've never heard the audiobook of World War Z, you have missed out on the best audiobook that's ever been made.
Check that out.
Audiobook is amazing.
Mark Hamill plays a veteran who fights in every single major battle.
Oh, cool.
And so he's through the whole thing. And it's all about...
he's the veteran. He's a soldier in the Battle of Yonkers.
Yeah.
And then later on when they start fighting back.
Oh, it's so good to hear him do his name. And it's got Carl Reiner and Rob Reiner in it. It's got Alan Alda.
Nathan Fillion is the Canadian, I believe, in it.
Yeah.
I think.
Yep. It's really good. Like I've listened to a lot of audiobooks. It's the best audiobook I've ever heard.
All right, I'm gonna be disappointed if I listen to this and Mark Hamill's not going, Day 80, killed more fucking zombies.
He does make a line though. He goes, so if you ever see whatever they called him, I forget what they called him. If you ever see a deadhead walking around with his lungs hanging out of his mouth, say hi from a fellow veteran. And it's such a good line. It stuck with me ever since I heard him say that.
Well, that's I'm sold. I will check that out.
Same.
All right, kids, I'm going to wrap it up for the night. Thank you all again so much for coming out.